The year was 1967 and the Vietnam War was intensifying. Despite the expansion of the US bombing campaign, Operation Rolling Thunder, Vietcong infiltration troops and supplies were still flowing into South Vietnam. However, the People's Army of Vietnam was fighting a war on two fronts, one against the South and their American allies, and the other against a much older enemy, malaria. This single disease is said to have caused as much as 5% of all human deaths in history, its scourge of life being documented in Mesopotamian clay tablets from 2700 BC and ancient Egyptian papyri from 1570 BC. Faced with this ancient threat, Vietnam sought help from their Chinese allies. Chairman Mao took the threat very seriously, with malaria being a major cause of death throughout the southern Chinese provinces. In response, he launched Project 523, convening approximately 600 scientists and tasking them with finding a treatment for malaria. Project 523 was divided into three divisions. One investigated prevention of infection, another developed treatments through a scientific method, and finally one screened traditional and folk remedies for a treatment. It is the third division which would attract the attention of 39-year-old Tu Youyou. Tu Youyou was unique in many ways. For one, her name, which was inspired by the call of an animal. Her father adapted this peculiar name from his favourite poem, the relevant line reading, Dear bleat Youyou while eating the wild Queen Hao. Other than her unique name, Tu Youyou was also very brave, working as a researcher for the Academy of Traditional Chinese Medicine during a time where being an intellectual could have you killed. This was the result of Chairman Mao's Cultural Revolution, where intellectuals were amongst the 9 black categories alongside landlords, anti-revolutionaries and traders. Tu Youyou's interest in medicine started after a tuberculosis infection, which had her hospitalized during early life. From there she trained in the Beijing Medical University School of Pharmacy, before getting additional training in traditional Chinese medicine. It was this background of modern pharmaceutical science and traditional medicine which prompted her to the promotion as head of task force within Project 523. Tu Youyou promptly decided to take an unconventional approach to her role. Searching the medical journals of ancient China for the cure, she sifted through the texts of the Zhou, Han, and Qing dynasty, travelling up and down China collecting her findings in a notebook called A Collection of Single Practical Prescriptions for Anti-Malaria. This mission would have her make 380 herbal extracts from over 200 herbs she had found in over 2,000 traditional recipes. This approach remarkably paid off when she discovered the details of a remedy to combat intermittent fevers in a 1,600-year-old recipe book titled Emergency Prescriptions to Keep Up One's Sleeve. The directions were to soak a single bunch of sweet wormwood in hot water and drink the juice. Tu Youyou and her team set about trying to extract the active ingredients from the sweet wormwood, giving them some success but with inconsistent results. They found it was the leaves that had the effect, not the stems, but it wasn't all the leaves, only the ones that produced at a specific time of year, just before the plant flowered. Tu went back to the ancient medical records for more advice, and it was while reading another text that she found her answer. The water in which the leaves were to be steeped should be cold, not boiling, a simple change that would go on to save millions of lives. Tu Youyou and her team began to experiment using lukewarm ether to extract the compound and discovered that when testing the treatment on monkeys and mice, it had a 100% cure rate. Now all she had to do was test it on humans. To undergo human trials, she needed proof it wasn't harmful. However, there was no existing structure for clinical trials in China, and so, like many scientists before her, she and her 2 colleagues tested it out on themselves. When it was proved to have no side effects, the medicine was finally rolled out. Tu Youyou would receive a Nobel Prize in 2015 for her discovery, a discovery which scientists had been dreaming of for years, yet was discovered in ancient texts within a country that viewed intellectualism as a potential crime by someone who wasn't even properly scientifically trained. Yet this extraordinary tale has one final twist, for within the poem Tu Youyou was named from, the bleating deer is chewing on a plant. Of all the tens of thousands of plant species it could have been, it was the Queen Hao which the deer chewed, a plant otherwise known as sweet wormwood, the very plant from which she would develop a cure for malaria and save innumerable lives.